Rolling. That is rolling. All right. So, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Ray McKeown. I've been teaching on and off for about 50 years, mostly elementary school, but in Langley, 93, I started working in the high schools, and then I was taken on by Lord Byng, going on 2 years now, and I'm pretty much exclusively here. Came out from Toronto in 1963 to Vancouver. Began odd jobs in the 70s. I began teaching in the school system about my heritage, which is Métis. My grandmother's from the Lakota people, and my grandfather was Russian. My dad's Scots and Irish. And at an early age, I was very curious about my mixed heritage, because in Canada, it has always been seen as kind of a shadow people. A lot of people don't know anything about the Métis people. Okay, well, I want you to see what it looks like now, because we didn't have any beadwork on it, did we? Come along, crowd in. Did I explain to you guys? You're too far back there. Come in. Okay, this is important because it's part of the reason we're doing the project. Why are we presenting it on the 21st? The reason most people don't know is it's not a holiday. If it were a holiday and you got a day off school, you'd say, I know what it is. But it's an observance, and it's Aboriginal Day. So this is our gift, your gift, to the school. It will be presented to the school on the 21st. And what we're hoping is with this class and all the other classes is for you to do whatever appeals to you. Some of you already started, and I have here most of your projects with me. And so you're free to do whatever appeals to you in relation to nature. Well, I identify as a Métis man, but it took me 40 years to do that. And they had their origins in the late 1700s, working with the Hudson's Bay Company and other trade companies, the Northwest Trade Company. And they came out of the union between the men and women. And it was the children of that union that were called mixed blood. But they had no real identity. They represented both cultures, the joining of the two cultures. They became interpreters, they became master traders, and they preferred to live with their Aboriginal relatives rather than go back into the towns. I don't, as such, teach, I share, because I think you have to have lived a life before you can teach that. As in Aboriginal culture, I didn't live that culture, but it's part of me because it's part of my family. But so I share what I've learned, and I like talking about the unknown history. This beautiful forest reminds me of a creation story. Long after the Creator had brought into being all the animals and plants and the mountains and rivers and oceans, he decided that first man should be born. So he opened a hole in the ground, and first man slowly crawled out, and he beheld all these beautiful wonders, but he did not know what they were. And he began a journey of discovery, looking up in the sky, looking into the trees, not knowing anything. And he spied a little fox. And first man said, "Will you speak to me, for I'm very lonely?" And fox said, "I cannot do that until you tame me." And first man says, "What does it mean to be tamed?" And fox says, to be tamed is to be responsible to each other. If you tame me, I will be unlike any other fox. You will be unlike any other man. We shall need each other. Do you see that beautiful stand of flowers, the yellow cornflowers? Your hair is yellow. I will always think of you. And your eyes are blue like the sky. And I shall love to lie in the flowers and look up at the sky. That is what it means to be tamed. And first man said, then I will tame you. Come and walk with me. So they walked through the forest, and the fox pointed the trees, told man what they were for, but eventually a time for them had come to part. And fox said, ah, I shall cry. And first man said, why would you cry? I've done you no harm. And fox says, because of the cornflowers, because of the sky. I shall lie, and I will think of you. And first man raised his hand to say goodbye. And fox said, before you go, there was something you should always remember, that it was with the heart that one can truly see. That is the only way to see. Goodbye, my friend. And they parted. Came from a very rough, alcoholic, negative background. I was abused, and I've tried to commit suicide 3 times in my life. So I survived that. One of the reasons I survived that is my grandmother on my mother's side moved away from the family very early, and she settled on the Standing Rock Reserve in South Dakota, being a Lakota woman. So as a young person up to the age you would be now, I would go to visit her. And I had ponies, lived in a teepee and a tar paper shack on the reserve, attended a lot of the wonderful cultural dancing and feasting and stuff like that. And that's what began to open me up to the fact that I wasn't like everybody else I knew, that I had something else in me. And I really began to be drawn to the traditional thing, like, why do you do this? Why do you do that? So I always asked questions that a lot of people didn't necessarily have the answer, and that led to me researching the things that people don't know. And the art of porcupine quill embroidery is an example of that. Welcome, welcome. Well, we've moved off the streets into my home environment, and I thought I would show you a display of some of the work that I have created over many, many years. When I was in my teens, instead of going out partying, I would be staying home working on these objects. As an example, these moccasins took the better part of a month to create, and the porcupine quill work, which is what these objects are, take considerably longer. So you really have to be devoted to the traditions of the people that I'm representing. This is what I have built my career on, the gift of the porcupine. In North America, they were once very common, but through development, overhunting grounds, etc., they're not as plentiful. The quills I get come from a woman in the interior who collects the quills from the poor animals that get hit by logging trucks. And the reason I'm talking about this is that porcupine quill embroidery is the only truly indigenous form of embroidery to North America. All other came from Europe. It takes 3 times longer to do anything in quill work than it does beading. So I like to think that I'm keeping a tradition alive. Out of 350 million people, Canada and the United States, you've got a handful who are quill workers. Economically, in our modern world, it's very difficult to do this work and make a living at it, simply because of the time and the difficulty in getting the materials. So you have to do this work because you really love it. Well, it's the way that I survived all the trauma of my youth. I could hide in my bedroom. I would actually go in the closet and close the door and turn the light on. And rather than fall into drugs and alcohol, which so many people do, I was so fortunate to have a passion for traditional artwork. And that was a big saving grace in my life. I mean, it fulfilled me, gave me a sense of anything I ever wanted, I could actually make. When I'm working with students and their eyes light up when they've made something and they're proud of what they've done, then I'm helping them to connect to a simpler time that is disappearing very rapidly. A lot of young people today are going through bad times. Just like every generation, they feel they're alone. And I'm a survivor, and I can tell my story to them so they can get an idea of the fact that there is hope. Trees are amazing acts of creation. They not only give us fuel, they shade us, they provide us with many things, and in the modern world, science has discovered that trees filter out a ton of pollution a year. But way back when, before the modern world, the native people revered trees. Among my grandmother's people, the Lakota, they were called standing people because they were always standing, waiting, and watching. In our modern world, we have social issues, one of which is bullying, especially among young people. And to some degree, in the old days, they had that too, but not so much. And therefore, a young man stood out when he had these kind of problems. So he would be brought before a tree and told to look up at that tree and to touch it, and then to tell that tree how great he was. And he would look at the tree and he would say, "I'm great." But the tree would just stand there, tall, straight, silent. Long after the young man is gone, that tree will remain. So who indeed is the greater and the stronger? Children are living messages we send to a time we will not see. And that has been my guide for working with any student, any grade, that I have to tell them the truth. To my knowledge, I have to be honest with them so that what I'm telling them, they will remember certain things and they will carry that forward into the future. In the time I have left, I want to reach as many, especially high school, as possible, because you're all on the edge of adulthood. You have magic coming to you, falling in love, discovering who you are, what you're all about, being afraid to go to a club for the first time. That's so magic. I did that, and I remember everything in my youth. And so when I'm teaching, I want to be remembered in a good way, and by joking, by clowning around, but by also imparting, hopefully, good knowledge and a sense of who you are and what you can become. There's a beautiful saying that what you are is the Creator's gift to you. What you become is your gift to the Creator. Cut. Sick and tired of being told that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm certainly not, and I'm sick and tired of being told that I am.